Good afternoon. My name is Kaleb Owens. I'm a career coach here with the district, and this is episode 3 of Career Conversations. Today, we have the privilege of hosting Hannah Hopkins from NASA, and she's going to give us some insight about her career and her journey to what she does now. So, without further ado, Hannah, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well.
Good.
It's good to see you again.
Yeah, good to be here.
So we're going to jump right in. So why don't you just share with everyone kind of a little bit about your background, maybe where you're from, and kind of what your work title is and what you do.
Okay, yeah, I'm originally from Florence, Alabama, and I went to the University of North Alabama and graduated in 2017 with a bachelor's of computer science. Then I got my job at NASA as a computer engineer, and what we do there is we work on the simulation for the Space Launch System. And so the Space Launch System is the rocket that NASA is working on right now. It's going to be the most powerful rocket in the world, going to go to the moon, eventually to Mars, all that cool stuff. So it's a great job. So we work on the simulation for that.
Okay, pretty cool. I know we got some interesting stuff going on with Huntsville and with space, which we'll probably get to that a little bit later. But as far as your educational background, a little more specifically, kind of what did that look like for you? I know you said computer engineering, but how did that work for you?
Yeah, so computer science was my major at UNA, and then I went on after that to get my master's in computer science as well.
Gotcha.
While I was working. But in high school and everything, I didn't have any programming, any coding, no computer science experience at all. I just declared my major as computer science and decided to go for it and ended up loving it.
Okay, cool. And also, I know we know, but just for the viewers, I went to UNA as well. So they say that's where all the cool people go.
Rural Lines,
yeah. Rural Lines.
Yeah.
So at what point, during maybe middle school or high school, did you realize, because I know you didn't do a lot of coding and things of that nature.
Right.
So at what point were you like, hey, I think, computer science may be something that I think I like, I might be good at. When did that happen?
Yeah, so my whole life I've loved the parts of movies where they kind of show behind the scenes and it's like all this crazy stuff on the computer screen, and like to me it looked like this foreign language that was controlling a computer and like doing all these really cool and powerful things. And so that's kind of where my fascination with it started. And so I decided to declare my major in computer science, and then my mom was like, I was a computer science major, and I was like, what? And so she told me that she was a computer science major, so I guess it had kind of always been there, I guess, but I just never noticed it. But yeah, it kind of sparked from movies and seeing that, and it really was just a decision where I decided to like declare it as my major and then just go for it and see if I liked it. So, and I did. Worked out.
Yeah, so I know, there's a lot of different ways to approach career exploration. So I know some people are like, hey, when I was in kindergarten, I knew I wanted to do this. But I think it is very interesting that you can get to different places, even with people starting at different points. So, you were kind of unsure, but then like, hey, I think I want to try it. But I think that as we talk a little bit more, some of the components of the job may be things that you didn't know that you were doing as you were growing up.
Yeah.
So I think that's, kind of cool.
Yeah,
what's
for sure.
What's one thing that for some students now that are like, okay, I think I already have an interest in computer science, or maybe something in electronics, IT, something in that range. What can they be doing now in high school to kind of get them prepared to do what you do, in a sense?
Yeah, really just any type of exposure to coding, website development is great, anything like that you can do in high school. And like the great thing about computer science and coding in general is that everything's online. Like you can learn how to write any programming language. If anyone's listening to this and wants to know kind of where to start, I would recommend trying to learn Python as a good first programming language. It's a really good one to start with, really readable, and there's tons of really great websites and online resources that you can use to learn Python. Code Academy is one. I know I did like a small little tutorial that walks you through an entire project where like you make a game, and so just really fun, interactive stuff. So you can do that now from home, at school, wherever you want to. That's the good thing about computer things, is you can learn it from anywhere. So yeah, I would definitely recommend something like that just to kind of dip your toes in before you get to college.
That's cool. And I know that sometimes students' perspective in high school, it's sometimes learning doesn't always seem fun, but I think it all depends on, how you view that. So, learning how to code, which could eventually translate to having an actual job or making a video game or working on the SLS, like that's cool,
Yeah.
So I think that, as students learn more about what people do, which is why the reason we're doing this interview, I think it kind of hopefully it can change their perspective on like what is learning, what does that look like for me?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Coding is definitely something that I hope they're dabbling in. It wasn't something that I did growing up, but I also probably would have tried it if somebody was just like, hey, this is a coding website,
right, just
go check it out and just see,
Yeah.
because to me that's a big part of figuring out what you want to do. You got to mark some stuff off the list. Hey, I don't want to do that.
Right.
But there's also things where you're like, hey, this may be part of the situation where things I might like.
Yeah, and I think coding kind of gets this reputation of being people that are very introverted, working behind a computer all the time, and they're not, they're kind of hunched over, and it kind of becomes this image of someone who's like a hacker in their basement or something. But really, computer science is so much more than that. Like, there are so many jobs open with computer science that are just vastly different. Like you mentioned, like video games, simulation, there's app development, there's everything you interact with on a daily basis, like your refrigerator, it probably has some sort of code in there.
Right.
And so, everywhere, like there's some sort of way to tie in with code. And so it's not just this one stereotype of like this guy working in their basement where they live with their mom,
Right.
That's not the reality of it at all.
Well, it's really funny because, growing up, I played video games, and I know a lot of our students watching do. But as an adult, me personally, I don't do video games now. And I know plenty of adults do. But I was talking to my wife one day because we talked about how now as adults, like apps are kind of like our toys. Like I used to have like action figures and things of that nature. So like designing an app would be cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I know we've had like some students that have done some things like that, here in the district, which is cool. But just thinking of on a broad perspective, like that's pretty cool to be able to make something that people like play with. Like,
And the cool thing about it is you can do it all for free. Like if you have an idea, you can just go online, do it all for free, and then put it out there and see if people buy it. It's a great way to make money on the side or make it eventually a real like permanent job. There's just a lot of cool opportunities with computer science that I want people to know about.
Yeah. So I have another question. What was your experience with, job shadowing or interning? Because I know that that's something that can give students a good picture into what a career may be like or help them network. So what's your experience with that?
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely recommend any type of internship, any job shadowing you can do in any field. Try it out if you're remotely curious about it. I had an internship at NASA the summer before my senior year, and that's what led to my job. My internship was with the people I work with now. It was pretty much doing a scaled down version of what I do now. So that was definitely my foot in the door. And one thing just to say about that is I've always kind of loved the idea of NASA, loved the idea of working for NASA and space and all that stuff. And when I went to apply for an internship, I was very doubtful that I would get it. I really didn't think that I even had a shot. And so I was kind of hesitant to apply, almost didn't apply, ended up applying, and I kind of sped through my application, didn't even really take it seriously because I knew I wasn't going to get it. And then when I got it, I was like, wow, I almost missed this opportunity because I limited myself in what I thought that I was capable of. And so for anyone out there, try it, you might as well apply. It's not going to hurt. Put yourself out there and really go for it. Exactly what you want to do is what I would recommend. And for NASA internships, you can apply as young as 16, and so you may be able to apply right now. They're open right now for the summer. If you're interested, you can go online to apply.
Yeah, that's great information. And I think sometimes, I always like to say people don't know what they don't know. So some students may just be like, wow, I'm a sophomore. I didn't know that there's something out there that I could apply for and be a part of. And you also said something that stuck out to me. So you said you did that, was it your junior? You said
it was the summer before my senior year of
college. Your senior year. And so it led to you getting a job. So just talk about even from like a young age to now. You're a seasoned professional, right? What have you seen in the workplace as far as like soft skills and professionalism, and what have you learned, as you've kind of matured and gotten older? How is that really important?
Yeah, soft skills are so important. I think I've heard you say before that technical skills can get you a job, but soft skills keep a job, you know, and I totally agree with that. I think communication is kind of the number one soft skill to me that just kind of sums up everything you need, because communication encompasses one-on-one communication, group, team, presentations, like all of that kind of ties into this bigger picture of how you represent yourself to everybody. And I think that that's so important to be able to communicate effectively. I think what would kind of differentiate the interns that come through our branch, like the ones who do really well and like we want to keep on versus the ones who maybe not, I think all of that comes down to communication. It's never really their technical abilities, because they're all great if they've gotten to that point, but just the ability to communicate, ask for help when they need it. I think that's so important.
Yeah, I agree. And like you just said, I think the technical skills are definitely important. Soft skills, super duper important. And employers and managers, they like to hire people that their employees would like to work with.
Yes.
And they want to have somebody that is enjoyable to manage. So I think that that's something that, if you're on time, if you're doing your work, if you're a good team player, that makes people want you to be a part of the group.
Yeah, so, absolutely. A team player is key, because any job you have, coding, otherwise, you're going to be in some sort of team. You're going to be working with other people, and so how you do that is just really important.
Yeah, so for sure agree on that. So one thing I want to talk about is diversity in the workplace, because I know that, that's a term that we throw around a whole lot, but it means a lot of different things. So it doesn't always mean like, racial or religion. It could mean gender. So, being a female and being involved in STEM, just talk about your experience and how, maybe some of your perceptions before you got to work, or how many like females you do see or don't see at work. Because there may be some, females listening that are like, should I get into this field? Should I not? So talk about that for a little bit.
If you're a female watching this, you should get into this field for sure. Things have changed, even in the 4 years that I've been working at NASA. It hasn't been that long, but from the time I started to now, there's so many more women that I interact with on a daily basis now, and I think so many more people are kind of open-minded to computer science now than they used to be. I think the outreach has gotten a lot better than it was when like you and I were in high school probably, about computer science as a field. And so just in general, like it may be a little different, because in your classes you're probably going to be one of the few girls in your class, and that it's just kind of different. It's not what you're used to, but it's not bad. It's not good. I would love to see more women in computer science and STEM fields in general. But if that's one of the things that kind of scares you about going into computer science, I would recommend do it anyways, push through it. I think it's really important for more women to do that, and so that more women will start to do that. I feel like if we can kind of start this movement of having enough courage to put yourself in that position, then more women will follow,
Right, and just like you were hesitant about applying for the internship, and you didn't realize that kind of started a chain reaction of catapulting you to your career, which is really cool.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think, anytime you can have diversity, you have, more perspectives, and you have, more thinkers in the room. I think that's great. So a lot of the times there may be scholarships or things of that nature for, some women that want to do, computer science or engineering or something of that nature, which is something to think about. So just important to realize that, the way that we kind of start the movement or kind of keep it going is having people like you here talking about their experience. And even if there's just one student today that's like, you know what, I heard Hannah and I might do something a little different, I think that's cool. But I think that's how you start to change, with seeing familiar people doing things that you want to do. So a couple more things before we wrap up that I want to ask you about. So why don't you share with us, one of the coolest things that you've been able to do as a part of your job?
Yeah, so I do a lot of cool things. I love my job. But so we work on the simulation of the Space Launch System. And so every single day I go into work and I get to see kind of like a video game. It's a rocket flying, and like we wrote the code behind that to see that animated rocket flying. So I think that's really cool. But recently we did, you may have heard about it in the news, it's the hot fire test for the green run test of SLS. And so what that is at Stennis Space Center in Mississippi, they put all 4 engines that they're going to use on the Space Launch System on the day of launch, and they put them together like they're going to be on the day of launch, and they hold them real tight. It's the best way I can describe it. They have this machinery that just holds them still, and they fire all 4 engines at the same time just to test it out. It's super powerful. They have to do it in this remote location so that nobody's windows get broken or anything. Right. It's a whole thing, but it was just really cool to be able to see that recently happen, because that's kind of the final big test before we actually get to launch day, which has been building for so many years, and it's just really exciting. And it was something that I could send the link of that video live to like my parents, my grandparents, and be like, hey, this is what I've been working on for so long. Yeah. Right. And it's just really cool. And so that was a really neat moment. That answer will change though in a few months whenever we launch.
Yeah, absolutely.
That will be by far the coolest. Coolest experience.
That's really cool. And so I guess what's your final piece of advice for high school students now? Because, hindsight's 2020 and you've learned a lot, you've grown a lot as a person, as a professional. So what would you tell them, maybe something that they could do differently now, or something you would encourage them to do differently as a high school student?
Yeah, I think just putting yourself out there when it comes to getting different experiences. Like, I think it's a lot of people's, not necessarily their nature to go and try to learn a programming language on the weekend, or something like that, like in your spare time. That doesn't really feel natural to a lot of people, but I would encourage you to try it and just put yourself out there and say, like, I don't think I'm gonna like this at all, but let me try it real quick just to see, like, just put yourself in that position to have as many different opportunities as you can come your way and to learn as much about potential jobs and what's out there before you go to college. I don't think I did that enough in high school, which it worked out great for me because I love my job. I somehow ended up here,
right.
And I'm really thankful for where I ended up, but I wish that I could have tried more things, or I wish I would have gotten myself out there and tried more things. I think I would have ended up in the exact same place, but
right.
I think it's good advice to try a lot of different things before you actually commit to a major in college and actually pursue a career.
Definitely. All right. Well, Hannah, thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Very informative talk. And everyone else, thank you for joining us this afternoon on Career Conversations. We'll see you next time.